Salutations, statistics supporters. This is a Stats MR returning with another presentation to sleep through. For today's presentation, I will be discussing statistics related to the NFL salary cap, and more particularly, what position takes up the biggest percentage of the salary cap for each team, and if there's any correlation between what percentage of the salary cap the highest paid player takes up and the number of wins the team has. And this analysis will go back to the 2020 season. I didn't go back any further because 2019 and prior required a paid subscription, so I went with the free data. So anyway, you might be asking, hey StatsMod, what inspired this? And it's actually, I was watching a game over the holidays, and it was Kansas City versus Las Vegas, and to make a long story short, the game wasn't going particularly well for Kansas City, and the quarterback was frustrated with the wide receivers, and of course in my mind I'm thinking, well, there was Tyreek Hill, a few years earlier, of course again with the salary cap, not everyone could be retained, so Kansas City traded him to Miami. But anyway, so that's kind of what prompted this, analysis. So anyway, let's dive into the data. Okay, so this, I'll give a layout of the table here. So, let me zoom in, try to make this a little bit larger. Of course it does that, but okay. Alright, so now that we have the data, so essentially, column A is the year, column B is the cap maximum, C is the fluctuation with the cap, so how much a team can be over or under the cap, and then I lay out the teams, and I sorted them in alphabetical order by division. So NFC South is here, then the NFC East, then the NFC North, and then the NFC West, and then same thing, AFC South, AFC East, AFC North, and then AFC West. Okay. Alright. So, and for each, so the teams are in the columns. And then each year has 3 rows. So, the top row is the salary cap number in US dollars that the highest paid player made that year. The second row is what percentage of the cap that highest salary consisted of. So, in for Atlanta, the highest cap hit was 21,233,823, which consisted of 9.45% of the salary cap. And the third row is the number of wins in that year. So, and then and the same thing goes. Highest paid player dollar amount, the percentage of the salary cap, and then the number of wins. There's also some color coding. So when a cell is highlighted in yellow, that means the highest paid player was a quarterback for that team for that year. So Atlanta in offensive lineman. Pink is a linebacker. Blue is a wide receiver slash tight end. And then red is a cornerback slash safety. Secondary position. So, that's what the color coding is. So, and then I tabulated, okay, how many times for this team was a highest paid player a quarterback? Defensive lineman, offensive lineman, linebacker, wide receiver, cornerback, safety. Okay. And then I summed up the number of wins. So, as you see, if we tabulate it for all the positions here, just do a command over. Alright, so, and again, this is over 4 years, so 2020, 2021, 2022, 2023. 43 times the highest paid player was a quarterback for a team. 23% of the time was a defensive lineman. 18% of the time was an offensive lineman. 43 times, which was 33.59%, it was a quarterback. 23 times, or 17.97% of the time, is defensive lineman. 18 times, or 14.06% of the time, is an offensive lineman. 16 times, or 12.5% of the time, is a linebacker. 16 times, or 12.5%, it was a wide receiver slash tight end. And then 12 times, or 9.38% of the time, is a quarterback slash safety. So, 33% of the time, highest paid player for a team is a quarterback. Then the Lions, it seems like the secondary is the least. Well, I guess if we're technically all the positions, I guess it would be kicker. Kicker, punter would, since that was 0, but or the positions that are represented, the secondary was the rarest likelihood of being the highest cap hit. Okay. And then I wanted to see, if we scroll all the way over, what the average number of wins were by the highest paid position player. So, teams that had a quarterback as the highest paid player averaged 9.21 wins a year from 2020 to 2023. Teams that had a defensive lineman as the highest paid position player averaged 8.13 wins. Offensive lineman, it was 7.74. Linebacker was 6.88, which was the lowest. So, the teams wanting to construct a good roster, don't make a linebacker the highest paid player on your roster. Then wide receivers 8.19, which was the second highest. And then cornerback safety was 8. They averaged 8, an even 8 wins. So quarterback had more wins than any other position by a full game. So from that standpoint, it makes sense to the numbers hold up that the quarterback is the most valuable. Now, position. Now, I wanted to see if there was any correlation between what percent of the cap the highest paid player took versus how many wins a team had. And you could really think about this one of two ways. You could say, well, hey, if this one player is just so great that he makes a really high percentage of the team, then that team should win because that player is so great. However, you could also argue the other way, that if that one player takes up too high a percentage, then the rest of the players will not, or the depth of the team will suffer. So you could be constrained from the salary cap position. So, and like I say, if you believe the first hypothesis that, you should have a higher percent for that, a higher percentage for the highest paid player, then there should be a correlation of close to 1. Okay. Now, if you go with the second analysis that, hey, if a team overpays a player, then that player will constrain the salary cap and the team will have bad depth, then there should be a -1 for the correlation. Now, I did it by year, and as you can see, these are all very weak correlations. So, again, 1 is perfectly positive, so the higher percentage, the more wins. A -1 is a perfectly negative correlation, so the lower percentage, the higher amount of wins. And 0 is no correlation. So these are very weak positive correlations. So, actually the highest was 0.27 in 2020, and decreased to 0.25 in 2021. The lowest was 2022 at 0.16. And then 2023, it was 0.23459.037. Okay. So, in terms of, the numbers, it really didn't support or counter the notion of, whether to concentrate, on 2 or 3, on the highest paid player versus keeping salaries low, and trying to evenly distribute the payroll across the players. So, and if we look at some of the favorites here, so let's go to, let's stay in the NFC. So if we go to San Francisco here, so you can see their highest paid player was an offensive lineman at 5.6%. Now if we go over to the AFC, the favorite would be Baltimore, Buffalo. Well, so Buffalo, 8.29 at 11%. Or sorry, 8.29 was the percentage. They had 11 wins, sorry. And what's Baltimore? So Baltimore was 10.53%, and they had 13 wins. Now let's look at the highest percent. So we have a 16. That was Kansas City. So they made it. Is there anyone higher than 16.52? 16, that's Tennessee. But there's 16.28 versus 16.52, I think, was Kansas City. Yeah, 16.52, so Tennessee was close. Anyone higher than 16.52? Anyone higher than 16.52? Scrolling along here. 16, nope. So Kansas City had the highest, 16.52. They made the playoffs. We look at the lowest percentage. So I think it was 6.55 for Philadelphia. It went below 6.55. San Francisco was 5.6. Anyone lower than San Francisco was 5.6. 5.6. Anything lower? Anything lower? Nope. So San Francisco had the lowest percentage at 5.6. So, anyways, So, and again, I'll leave a link in the description to my data source. But anyway, so to sum it up, there's a very weak correlation between what percentage of the cap the highest paid player makes versus the number of wins the team has. Very weak. And if, when choosing what position to pay the highest, quarterback has a more than one whole game lead over the next highest position, which was a wide receiver / tight end. And that also comes up in the percentage of time. And like I say, 33% of the time over the last 4 years, teams paid their quarterback the most. And then it goes into lineman, and the least common was the cornerback safety. So, anyways, that is it for this video. This is A Stats MR, wishing that your efforts have a positive correlation with results. So long.